We have driven forever to get to the center. This is Centerville, Indiana, and a huge antique mall that is open late enough for us to shop. So we're going to get in there on this cool summer day and go inside where it's warm and where there's some wonderful things, and I bet we'll find something that we can buy for our collectors. So let's go look. This place apparently is quite huge. It says that it has over 500 booths in this giant, several metal building sized barn here. So we're going to take a look and see if we can find something we can flip for a profit, or at least make a collector happy with. Well, the first bargains we see are sales on condiment sets. These are castor sets. Castor was a sort of a sweet sauce that you would put on things in the Victorian era. And boy, they've got a ton of these. If the bottles are on matching and there's no chips or cracks, well, there are still people who collect some of them. I like the ones that have a lot of detail in the silver plate. They're generally in a silver plate surround, and they've got bottles for all sorts of condiments and shakers. They are more valuable if they are cranberry glass. You see a lot of these in the clear, especially in this part of the country, and I think that's why they're on sale for around $85 each. At some point in the future, when the original supply is all gone, some of these Fiesta ware plates with the transfer designs on them are going to end up being pretty collectible. There's still a lot in old stock like this that are being sold off now because this is a pretty recent treatment. But if we should live so long, I think in the future you'll see interest in these because some of them are kind of obscure and short-lived. Drip cup syrups are something that were very popular in the 50s and 60s and beyond, but this one has a really fun shaped bottom that's a little different than we usually see. And behind it is a Harker cameo ware planter. Now, if you see that with white clovers, the white clover was done by Russell Wright, and that stuff sells for big money. Here's another half off, and I do see one thing I like right away, which is this Mexican blanket here. We're going to take a look for the price and the condition. Oh, this has been cut to be a serape. Well, let's see what that looks like. Well, kind of a shame. This was a repurposing somebody did. It's got good fringe. The price is great. It's only $8. It's older. It's wool. It's not the day glow color, so it's probably 1950s. But they just cut a hole in it to where it is a poncho. And I get it. It was theirs. They were just using it. It was new at the time. But now it's old and we wish it was intact. It could be seamed, but it just will never look right. Another half off booth. I get the feeling that some of these dealers have been here a long time and it's time for them to wind down. This is a little more recent. You can kind of tell. See, look at the color scheme. This is brighter. It's going to be a little later in time. It's a runner or a scarf, but it definitely is still good quality, and it looks like the fringing is okay. It is wool, and I bet it's cheap. Yes, it was $6. It's only going to be $4. I think I'll take that because I can use it in display if nothing else, and I bet someone would like to wear that. This is an interesting looking linen too. Now, it may only be card table size because that was popular at the time, but it looks Scandinavian, and it definitely would be nice on top of a table. Oh, it's not even a card table size. This really is a table topper, but it's nicely done. You can see the quality of the embroidery on that. And this one is going to be $3 as well. So I think we're going to have that too. Well, we know that this stuff from the 80s, this spaghetti stuff, the melted popcorn, is fun and people are liking this. They want $30 for the rabbit though. And this gal here, now she's only $8. Some more Francoma, and I'll take a look at this piece because this is older. This is Ada clay. Notice the tan on the bottom. Also notice the rutile makes a more golden color. In 1970 they had to change to Australian rutile because the American mine shut down, and so the later pieces are more like this, where the gold is just limited to one place and doesn't travel through the glaze. And then if you notice, the piece I'm buying is red. That's the pulpa clay from after 1970. Cowboy boot is a cute piece that they did for a long time. 18 on that. Now this they have marked as spongeware, and it's too bad it has a chip because it's only $10, and this is a very old piece. Look at the heavy wear on the bottom. This is Bennington or Rockingham pottery, yellow spatterware. This was probably an early Indiana Pioneers piece from the 1830s, 40s, 50s. We're near the National Road, so this is one of the oldest parts of Indiana, and that would have been a neat piece for $5. And then over here we have this piece, which is McCoy. And this doesn't have the mark on it, but I've had this before. It is priced at $6, so $3 is certainly cheap. We've got a big horn that would have been on top of a truck. It's a little dented. And then this piece here is a big Francoma vase from the 1970s, and it's only $4.50. And that's so inexpensive for that I think I have to get it. So we are finding some bargains in here. You just have to look hard, but you'll find them. This Humpty Dumpty-ish looking thing, I believe, was a linen press, something to keep your unmentionables in when you were traveling. And that's certainly cute. I don't see a price on that one, but I'll bet it's not much. I do look for striped blankets. This one is a nice double-length lavender blanket, but it is $50, which is a full price, but it is in good shape, it appears. Cool pedal car here, DPW dump truck. And it looks like it's had some restoration or repainting. There's your dumper on the back. This one's definitely been repainted. This space does have some older beer signs, though, which is nice to see, because we were seeing a lot of reproductions in other parts. And I have to say, this garish ashtray, I've had this before, but I've never had one with a light-up base at the bottom. That is definitely a look. 45 on the vintage croquet set is not bad. And I like these little stools, but you would have to have a big platform for them because they're really, really short. This would have been one where you stepped up, and they're asking $200 for the pair of those. Another half-off booth. It looks like, again, a few record albums, not a whole lot of really old stuff. I do see a neat enamelware piece in the spatterware, but half of $80 is still $40, and that's, with this condition problem, just not going to be an acceptable price. Another line that Goebel did in the 70s and 80s were these Native American children that look a lot like DeGrazia designs, and that one's priced at $25. They also have the sports figures on the side. So Goebel made a lot more than just Hummels. People think of Goebel and Hummels as being synonymous because that was their biggest line, but they definitely have had a lot of other things over the years that they've made in figurines. A bunch of Joseph figurines. Most of these in front are the older ones with the black eyes. In later years, they changed to brown eyes, so that's a way you can tell them apart. The prices on these seem to be around $14 to $16, which isn't bad. There are not as many collectors for the ones with the birthday numbers, though. Ohio's slogan in the 70s when I lived there was seatbelts fastened. I guess it was a good reminder. They've got 16 for the pair of those with the double X's. Some sort of a neat old baggage car, probably from an old train station, I imagine. This looks like something from about 1900. And then, of course, it has some neat little oaken drawer sets on there. Those are going to be priced up, though, because everybody is into those these days. This has been restored, but this is an RC Cola cooler rather than the usual Coca-Cola that we see more often. 40% off, and I see a Caro Nan purse up here that I like. This one is one of the ones with the houses on it, as opposed to one with the stores on it. So it's blank on the top. I think this is Caro Nan. Let's see if it's signed. Yes, it is. And it was only $24 to begin with. If it only had its strap, that would be a great deal. But the strap has been broken off, so I'm afraid it has to stay. Next to this poor coyote, who's not going anywhere, is this. Benjamin Brook and Company's fine toilet soaps from Philadelphia, an old store display. Neat looking countertop display. They want $5.95 though. Showcases tend to be priced high if they're from this era because, well, they're useful to dealers, but also because they're hard to find with the curved glass intact these days. What's buzzing different, cousin? Wallace's honey egg bread. I'm not sure why it's buzzing, but a bunch of Shelley china here in the dainty pattern, the dainty blank with the blown out edges and the reeds, and then this one has the clover, or the shamrock they call the pattern, with the clovers on it. $35 for the cup and saucers is actually about right for those. There's a lot of Corelle beyond the cornflower blue. A lot of Corningware. We have, of course, the Spice of Life, but we also have some of these patterns, the Ivy, and this is one we don't see very often with the mushrooms on it. And that's actually a pretty collectible pattern because there are certain people who are really fond of mushrooms. We also see a rather unusual late Franciscan pattern, the Strawberry. This was done late in the series. It's the same series as Desert Rose and some of those others. You don't see Strawberry Time very often, and that was the last of the American marks right there with that stylized F. And they're, of course, telling you it's safe in the dishwasher and the oven and the microwave. Hard pattern to find. 40% off is a pretty good discount if things are priced a little on the cheap side to begin with. So let's see what they've got. They have the classic Treasure Craft cookie jar in the barrel line. This was actually shown on the set of the Dick Van Dyke Show. If you ever see reruns of that, look for where they're going by the partition between the main room into the kitchen. They have one of those built-in shelf units you can see through, and the cookie jar is sitting right on it. They have $26 on this, which is a pretty good deal, but it's got a chip. Here's a whole bunch of Metlock sculpted grape. This pattern was done in California in the 60s, and I think it's rather appealing. This is all textured similarly to the way that Franciscan was doing Desert Rose at the time, and all hand-painted. You have $45 each on the canisters, but you also have all of the dinnerware, and they made an extensive service. They also did it in antique grape, which was just a white with a very, very faint wash at the same time. Hames and horse collars and mirrors were a combination you saw a lot in the 1970s. Hi, everybody. And there is one now. It's good looking, but it's priced at $250, which is about double what I've seen them sell for. Speaking of Walt Disney World, well, there is the Treasure Craft tray that was made about the same time as the House Art trays, right about the time it opened in 1971. They also have the Hawaii 50th State tray with the woven edge, and this is priced at $13.50. It does have the Treasure Craft Maui mark on the bottom. It's lightweight because it's otagiri, but this is only $19, the duck tureen, and there's your otagiri symbol on the bottom there. This is probably 1980s. Ducks were very popular in the early 80s as part of the preppy move in decorating and in culture in general. 40th anniversary of Beta Sigma Phi State Convention in Connecticut. But it's very 1972. It's Who's Art. They did the same thing with the Disney World logo on it, for Disney World when they had opened the year before. But this has the signs of the zodiac, because in the early 70s, the zodiac and astrology were very, very interesting to a lot of people. What's your sign became the big pickup line among singles in bars at that time, which of course promptly led to women saying, "My sign is closed," and other things to get people to leave them alone. They want $30 for that. Lerner's was a big specialty clothing store, sort of the Forever 21 of their time, I guess. But what I was really coming back here to look at is this vase, which is a Weller piece. Unfortunately, it's been very damaged, but it's the Weller Etna pattern. This one just happens to say it on there. Sometimes you'll see Etna not marked so clearly. This is from about 1920, and the hand painting and the colors are very nice. It's when Weller is still doing their artware, but they're getting away from the brown and ochre colors of the arts and crafts era. The Schwinn Ladies Bike, as they would have called it then, the World Tourist. This one's priced at $110. I have to say, the other thing in the space I like is this old butter churn, but it is marked firm. So at $70, it will not be going with me, but I like it. And if you're seeing things you like, and if you're enjoying this video, please do click the thumbs up so you like it. Please leave a comment. YouTube loves to see your responses because it lets them know that you're interested, and then that helps us get other people involved because they'll promote it to more people, and we can keep growing our antique and vintage community and all help each other out. Cute recipe holder, that would be $14.75 with the discount. And this is a pretty good color of Russell Wright for Steubenville, this brown casserole. You don't see this russet color very often. It looks to me like the condition is good overall. There's the Russell Wright mark on the bottom. $23 is pretty viable on this piece. There's probably room for resale. Now this is a very pretty button and arches berry bowl set. This is by Duncan Glass. George Duncan was his own company before they merged with Miller and became Duncan and Miller. This is going to date right around the turn of the last century. It would be $92.50 with the discount. It's ruby flash, and so you don't want to dishwash that. The Westmoreland compote here is the Lotus pattern. You don't see that a lot. 1970s vintage for $16. The blue Dutch oven enameled pieces, a little bit worn on the inside, but this does sell pretty well. This was made in Holland, and it's generally just marked Holland. And it's right up there with the Descoware from Belgium, and not quite as valuable as Le Creuset, but definitely along those lines. I do like this floss that they would do on glass. That's what they called this. Hazel Atlas did a lot of these floss or drizzle, where it's just a little decoration on the edge of an otherwise clear glass. It gives it a neat look, and I do like this set and the way it looks, but it's $170 before the discount, so it will not be coming with me. We will take a moment when we see 50% off just to see if there's anything old, because sometimes the older dealers are leaving a place like this and they will have the stuff that's on sale. This is a Danbury mint piece, not a Wedgwood piece. The Gazelle pieces I think are neat looking, but they're very lightweight, and look at that very uniform black felt without a lot of wear, so these are not old. That's a clue to look for there. They do have a nice Lazy Susan here, priced at $22.50 with the discount, made in USA, and I'm sure this is from California. It doesn't tell us which of the companies made it. The giraffe is Japanese. Wales was a company that made or had made for them a lot of different things. Cute little Fostoria heirloom piece, but $45 is a little rich for that size, and since I'd have to get the tag prices myself, I'm not going to jump after that one. Made in Taiwan, so we're starting to get dangerously close to not old again, and that just doesn't interest me. So I'm going to do a little bit of shopping in the back area here, but we're going to go through this fairly quickly partly because time is somewhat short and I'm on a big trip to pick up a costume jewelry collection, and I've got a couple of states left to drive today, but also because, again, so much of the back area has been given over to new things. And this is the problem. When you start letting some new things in, then everything starts to be new stuff, garage sale items, old clothes, not vintage clothes, not anything that has any collectability, but just stuff. And, it turns into more of a vendor mall or a picker's mall. And, it's a choice. It's not the choice I would make if I were running a place or wanted to sell in a place, but as a shopper you might find some deals, so we'll keep looking. This little seal might be a Royal Dux. No, it's a Lomonosov. There's the mark. $23. This one is Blue Mountain Pottery, a very little dolphin, for $8. And then hair receivers. It was important to keep hair for various reasons. It wasn't just used in mourning jewelry or as remembrances. It was actually used to stuff things and for other purposes around the home. And then there's toothpick holders. A lot of these were done in the 60s and 70s by a lot of the Ohio River glass companies. They're all priced at $15 each, which seems like a pretty reasonable price for what they are. Those seem like prices that will sell. I like the blue Argonaut with the texture there. That is a later issue of an Argonaut pattern that was done about 1910. Interestingly shaped Roseville Cosmos vase with the low squat design and the wide handle, $79. And then $149 for the Roseville Pine Cone. You notice the brown is not as expensive as the blue or the green, but I think it's a great look because it works with pine cones. These were done about the year 2000, but it's Roy Rogers and Dale Evans, and the bottom says done by Mimi Productions. Mimi Productions, I met them. They actually got involved with the woman who had done the Roy Rogers cookie jar for Treasure Craft, and then Treasure Craft ended their U.S. operations. And Roy and Dale wanted to continue to have cookie jars made. So the designer for Treasure Craft, Shi Chen, went to work for Mimi Productions, this couple, and they continued to do things under license for Roy Rogers and Dale Evans. And they were about this expensive new, $150 and $200. In this case, Dale has a little chip on her hat, unfortunately. And then next to it, we have a much older Hopalong Cassidy cookie jar with the transfer. Those are almost always worn off. So this one's in relatively good condition. And that one's priced at $250. Slag glass was first popular in the 1870s and 80s, and it became popular again about 100 years later as a nostalgia item, and Imperial glass did a lot of it at that time in various colors. This one actually has the original label that says Caramel Slag End of Day Glass by Imperial. They're trying to make it seem like end of day. They were making this deliberately all day long. End of day is actually where you took whatever was left at the end of the day and they let the employees just make whatever they wanted. But this was done intentionally. You can see it's got the label for being the mallard duck on there. And prices on those seem to be about $20 each. And then Shawnee did a Conestoga wagon as a planter. That's priced at $25. Pretty good price on that. And not to be outdone by Hopalong Cassidy, I have noticed a lot of Roy Rogers stuff here too. The chuck wagon seems pretty complete. There were a lot of pieces with this one that are often missing. That's Japanese, the Westward Ho there with the TV lamp. But I gotta tell you, I like that piece. That might go to Oregon with me. Baskets are us in this case. There are Fenton milk glass baskets. There's this very pretty piece here that I believe to be Czech that's almost translucent. There's a bunch that are Kanawha glass, little miniatures here. Nice Fenton frosted twist here with the stripes. Jeanette glass Constellation is the one with the triangles and the yellow back there. A very clear blue piece that I also believe is a Fenton attribution there with the crimping. $22 on that. Baskets are pretty reasonable. They seem like a category that people are not collecting so much right now, but they do everything a bowl does and they have a handle to boot, so I think they're really neat. And they have a really big selection here. This one's a little bit more because it's hand painted on the Rosaline. This Fenton Topaz has an interesting twist handle and is $78, minus 20%. Louisville native Muhammad Ali, there's his glove with his signature on it. He was Cassius Clay when he lived in Louisville. And of course, after experiencing some racial discrimination, he threw his medals into the Ohio River off of the bridge at Louisville, and then changed his name from Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali. The Mickey Mouse bow tie is a cute little thing, $10 from the 1950s. And then this is a Land of the Midnight Sun Yukon plate. This is a sample plate with the 4 zeros, $47. They generally have a little spot in the gold miner's pan. Sometimes that's painted gold. They do have a fun collection of scales in here. How much do you weigh? Your weight and fortune. You would pay 1 penny and you had to stand still. And then a little piece of paper would come out that would tell you the answer to your most pressing questions. Will I be popular? Shall I move? Who can I trust? And of course, how can I reduce my weight? Prices on these seem to be in the $400 to $600 range, and it is a neat variety. At 20% off, I'm actually tempted by these Applied Flower California dresser boxes from the late 40s, early 50s, but all of them have just a little bit of a chip. Below here we have Stangl Town and Country. Now this looks like old spatterware from farm country days, but this was actually made in the 1960s and 70s by the Stangl Pottery Company in New Jersey to appeal exactly to that same customer. This very cryptic looking book is Adams and Evil. This is a Charles Adams book from 1947. The The mid-40s are when he became popular as a humorist and a cartoonist, and by the mid-60s, The Addams Family was a television show on TV, and the movie sprung from there. And I have to admit, I have always been a fan since childhood. There's just something so fun and a little macabre about them. This is a pretty piece here with the mermaids on it. This is from the Grace line, Neptunus Rex, saying that this person sailed aboard the Santa Maria in 1957. $18, that would be a pretty neat thing framed with that graphic. Even though I collect coins, I rarely talk about coins in antique malls, and the reason for that is that they generally, because of the commission, have to price them higher than I would want to pay. They do have some neat stuff, though. They've got an 8 real there, priced at $90, with the Libertad cap in the middle. They have an 1826 large piece there, the half-dollar in very good condition for $75. And a bunch of the piece dollars and Morgan dollars as well. Look at this speedometer. It's not really a speedometer in the way we think of it. This is actually for a tractor or farm equipment. And this one says it actually is for a Ford. It shows the hours that it has run, because farm equipment is based on, the wear is based on hours used, because they're not traveling long distances. It doesn't make sense to measure miles. They have a lot of 1950s and 60s Strecto toys, like the dump truck there, but also the tractors, because we are in farm country. There's a lot of interest in that here. And then we have this one over here, which is by Smith Miller Toys. You don't see a whole lot of Smith Miller stuff, and that's in great condition. This Champion parts cabinet from an old garage of about 1960. This one says it's actually for an aviation display. So Champion did do a lot of aviation stuff. We had a estate sale out at a little private airfield, and they had Champion Aviation. And yes, the price is high, but those are pretty hard to find. It's $7.95. These are neat. We're in Indiana where Studebakers were made, and these lights are from the interior of a 1920s era Studebaker. Hudson Gasoline, serving 23 states. One of those was Washington. I used to go to an old Hudson station there that had been converted to a different company, but it had this amazing roof with these big flying angular buttresses from the 50s all over them. Cheer Up. That's an early decal. When you see those day glow colors, the bumper stickers that actually stuck on your bumper instead of having to be water applied came out in the early 60s. The Seattle World's Fair put out a bunch like that. And I think that's when Cheer Up would have been made as well. Drury's beer. I keep running into Drury's ever since I got a couple of pieces. They've got several different patches that would have been for uniforms. Pick Hopala corn. Oh gosh. Our manager in Seaside's last name was Hopala when I was running the antique mall there. She was a great gal. Canada Dry. Enjoy Tab. It's sugar-free. So the dealer says all three of these are Murano. I'm not so sure about this one because the twist at the bottom seems odd. The quality doesn't seem great. These actually do have a Murano label and seem like Sommerso. Retro Artistico. I don't think they're pretending to be very old. They do have a UPC label on the bottom, but I don't think that they are fake. I think they actually are Murano glass. We have to be careful of the fakes nowadays, that little round red label especially. Here's some Roseville Blue Pine Cone. This has been probably the most popular color and pattern of the Roseville pieces, the floral years, for a long time. They kind of have old school prices on them though. $3.50 for the bookends, $3.50 for the pitcher, $2.50 for the vase. There was a time we would get those kind of prices. I don't think we're in that time now, but I do really like the pieces. This vase is 50% off, and there's something interesting in here. First of all, we see the Bing & Grandal, the two little oyster holders or butter pats with the seagull on them in that middle shelf. Seagull was the most popular Bing & Grandal dinnerware pattern, and at one time, 1 out of every 10 houses in Denmark had that, and a lot of Americans picked up on it too. But what I saw that I liked is this, because it is a typical pincushion doll, but she has the legs, and there's just a little wear on those shoes, which makes me feel that those are legitimate and not reproduction. And at $11, because it has the legs, I think I would take that set. I do try to take my time when I'm looking at a half-off case. If the amber syrup has a good lid, that would be worth it for half price. The bird salt and pepper there are Lomonosov from Russia. They would be $10. This is Fiesta's 1937 to 1940 orange color. I've heard it referred to as Fiesta Red. It is a red orange, and it was made using uranium salt to get that orange in the glaze, which is why during the Second World War they had to discontinue that color. So it is the scarcest of the original colors. Cheese domes were very popular in the early part of the 20th century because you wanted to keep critters like flies off of your cheese. So you would put this on the table and cover it up between servings. And they tend to have this shape where they're a canted rectangle, so they have a slope in the front. That gave you some way to decorate. It also meant that if you sliced your cheese at an angle, it would fit. Another shaped cheese dome, of course, is a wedge. So if you got a big wedge cut, they might look like that. And then we have another style over here. The horse planter is Hetty Shoup, and Hetty Shoup was an immigrant from, I believe, Austria, who came over right before the Second World War. She became a darling of the Hollywood set. She did very fun, whimsical ceramics in California in the 40s and 50s, and please do not call her Heidi. There was no first I in that name. Not that some of these patterns don't still sell high. This is Red Wings Roundup, another 1950s Western dinnerware pattern. That's priced at $120, and that seems like a lot, but Roundup does still sell pretty high. And at 40% off, now you're looking at something around the $72 range. That's probably more in line with current pricing. Very unusual Roseville piece here. It's worn on the bottom, unfortunately, but that's a really neat hanging basket. Next to it, we have a cool-looking Shawnee bowl planter, but it says that it's as is. This looks like it was a really fun display at one time, a general store. There's still some big advertising here, but it looks to me like maybe a lot of this has gone away over the years. Big old Rexall drug sign in pieces over there. I also wanted to take a quick minute to thank our members for your extra support. It really does help the channel quite a bit. We have a few folks who are on Patreon. Thank you all who are able for giving extra to the channel, because it does help us to put out more content and to cover the expenses, which have gone up quite a bit of all the travel that we do to bring you interesting things from all over the country. And so we're very grateful. If you are interested in being a member, there are some perks that go with that. Early access to eBay listings, and depending on the level you get, we do a live chat once a month with the members. So if you're interested in those things, if you see a join button, do click it and you'll learn more about that. Or you can look for memberships in the description of any video way down below the dotted line. Nice selection of Hopalong Cassidy stuff. He was so popular in the 50s. They did all sorts of things. They did mirrors, they did ear muffs, they did plates. The book bag is an unusual piece for $75. Various tumblers here. We see the little mugs more often. Films, of course. Even a rather modern looking 1950s style pistol that hardly seems like something that he would have used, but this was the projection for the 8mm film. This is a Sirocco wood Hopalong Cassidy neckerchief bar in the back there. And then you see lots of pinbacks. He was such a phenomenon, and he got a lot of garbage from the press because they said he was washed up and that he had done these films way too long, and he bought the rights because nobody wanted to cast him in a movie, and then he brought it to television and figured out how to appeal to kids, and that's when it all took off again. Here's the cookie jar. That's a very hard piece to find. Cobalt is one color of depression glass I still see selling because it is such a rich, deep color, and we're seeing jewel tones coming back into the market. All of these are 1930s pieces, mostly by Hazel Atlas. We have some modern tone here with the concentric rings, and then a bunch of the reeded patterns like Aurora and related. The Mary Goebel Cowboys. Goebel really started to try to expand its figurine lines. They got the rights to produce some of the Hulda figures that were the ladies of bygone days. They started the Charlotte Beige Redheads, and they started these guys, the Cowboys. And they're really fun. They each are doing something else. They all have their names on them with a sticker that you can see on the front there. Prices on these seem to be in about the $35 to $40 range, which is typical for these. Although Herbie, with his original tag there, is $28, so they're not priced badly for what they are. But the one I like is this Goebel skier in the case next to it. It says this is dated 1956, although maybe that's the stock number. I'm going to take a look. It's hard to see in here, but that is the stylized B mark, so I do not believe that is a date. I believe that's a stock number. However, I still think for $8, that is a pretty cute little guy. But as he got out over his skis and chipped one of them, so I guess we're going to have to leave it. So I like this Mystic Oracle. And it says it's mysterious, amusing, mystifying, and baffling, and it answers questions by wireless. The only problem is the dealer has written their space number and the price and their inventory number on the front cover. Why would you do that? Even if you use a soft eraser, you're going to see the dents. It may take some of the background color off, so they basically ruin the piece. Now this is a neat old piece. This is a Kent 1887 patent English knife sharpener. And you can see it has all the special directions and everything on it. This one's really neat and complete, and you really don't see these very often. The important thing isn't just to wear the hat, it's to wear it like Minnie Pearl, with the price tag very, very visible. This one's only $10. I just sold my pair of cranberry flash lamps, very similar to this, at my warehouse sale this weekend. And I think I let them go for about $20. These are $90 for the pair. I would figure that retail would be somewhere larger than the price I got for mine, but mine had very strange bulbs that are expensive to replace. These are pretty well priced because they're the pink. This is the original 1930s Manhattan glass. The tumblers were one of the few pieces in the line that was available in pink. You usually see them in clear, and you know they're the 30s era because they have these ball feet. The Park Avenue lines from the 1980s have a flat foot, and then you used a coaster with those. This was so that the coaster was essentially built in so the glass wouldn't sweat on the table. Some cute pull toys here. We've got the N.N. Hill Railroad, and N.N. Hill was a brass company out of Connecticut, and they did these around 1950. A lot of companies after the Second World War that made metal or other things were looking for other ways to use their product, and so several of them went into toy making for a brief period of time, and there's some fun and obscure toys by them from that era. This one is priced at $65. This is earlier Indiana glass. Indiana glass has been around for a long time, and this is the modern classic line. I like the color. It's fired on, but it's an interesting color. And then the gold decoration was applied. And you see prices in the $25 to $40 range on these pieces. Now, one thing about these really, really huge malls that were built when there were a lot of dealers is that now that the baby boom, more of the folks have retired, we don't have as many dealers in the business. Some of them are filling up with a lot of new stuff and a lot of junk. And that is a problem. So we're going to take a look and see what the quality is here. As big as this place is, it may be a faster trip than you might imagine to go through 500 dealers. $14 would be a great price on this 1930s depression glass refrigerator jar because it's got the honeycomb optic and it is a jar rather than just tableware, but it's got chips, so we're going to have to leave that. This is what I mean by some of the antique malls that are just trying to fill space because they built so large are now just letting anything in, and I have to say it's very disappointing as a collector. And truthfully, it's a problem as a dealer too, because when you start having a lot of new stuff around old stuff, people can get confused, they get distracted, it takes them away from the antique and vintage focus, and it cheapens the stuff that you have. So it's not really a great look. The other thing about new items is that they drive out the old items, and I don't see anything old in this space at all, with the possible exception of the universal electric appliances and the Valvoline motor oil. But would you trust buying those when you see everything brand new around them and feel comfortable that they were the old ones? You'd have to feel really confident in what you were buying. I like the shaped chairs on this dinette set. Table and 4 chairs is $3.99. That's about what we're seeing nowadays on a decent dinette set that's been recovered like this one has. Avon bottles. They were made by Wheaton Glass Company in New Jersey, the same company that made their Cape Cod dinnerware and some other lines. They're really well made. They're great quality, they're thick, they're heavy, and that's why they're all still around and why they don't sell for much. Furskins was another branch off of the Cabbage Patch creation. This is by the original Appalachian Artwork Company, and this one is priced at $11.50. Here we've got some railroad memorabilia, including some railroad china that's older. It's not just commemorative pieces. Canadian Pacific Railroad, that's actually a rather old one with the script there. It's $8.75 with the discount. Oregon Pacific and Eastern was a more recent railroad, but that is out of Oregon, and that's where my next show is, and that's only $5. I may be interested in that one. This simple leaf pattern here is the Seattle, Portland, and Spokane, and then above it we have the Great Northern Glory of the West pattern, but that has a hairline crack, unfortunately. Great Northern Railroad Spokane pattern saucer with the leaves there. You don't see that all that often, but just the saucer alone is going to be a lot of help. Be curious to see what this coach and 4 under these pieces here are. This is for the Norfolk and Western Railway. And then all by itself on this 30% off shelf is this cute Empoli cranberry piece. Unfortunately, Empoli is thin. It was easy to chip, and that one is. Otherwise, I'd be getting it because it was only $24 before the discount. It's priced at $5,000. I see. Yes, this is Handel, and it apparently does have the hanging lights as part of the set. That might have gone in a billiard room or a large parlor in the early part of the 20th century. It's not a cheap price, but finding the whole set together has got to be very difficult at this point, and it is 30% off, so I guess that actually makes it $3,500. I like this piece. It's been reupholstered. Chaise lounges became very popular about 20 years ago again. They've kind of slipped back in popularity, but I still think they're really neat. I find them comfortable. It's like having a day bed. This is Arts and Crafts era with the big American oak and the very plain design, the tacked upholstery. Very typical of circa 1900 to 1910 furniture, and they are asking for $1,200 for this. This is an old one from the 70s, but these over sofa lamps are popular again. They have $200 on this original era one with the perfect orange and harvest gold chairs to go with it from back in the era. And even the couch for it to sit behind. The couch is on hold. A very cute little shelf slash dresser slash cabinet unit here by Haywood Wakefield. You don't see this piece very often at all. You see the chest of drawers with those handles in the middle, but I don't see this piece often at all, and they don't either because they have it priced at $1,400, which seems like a lot, but it is a really neat, unusual thing. This is Denby. Denby is a good company. They have $40 on this set. This is probably worth buying at that price because Denby is a good English company that the modernists seem to really like. And you'll see a good mark on the bottom. It's kind of dark, but Denby made in England. Definitely something to look for. However, the casserole is missing its lid. And then this is a Russell Wright piece here, priced at only $25, not bad. And in here at 30% off, we have one of the most garish, loud, and kind of fun velvet paintings that I've seen in a long time. And this one lights up from behind. This is an ash brick. A lot of times you see the cable cars in San Francisco on these, but this one is something more appropriate to this part of the country with the old mill stream. I wonder what the price is on this. Now this is a nice price on this, only $129. That would be a nice display in a store or in a home for a nice small well-assembled collection. It's got great burl wood. It looks like a 1940s era piece. There's only about 15 minutes left before they close, and they're wanting me to get up front with my stuff. So I am going to quickly go down this aisle and buzz through a lot of newer Fiesta colors, a fun booth, but these are newer pieces than I'm dealing in currently. This one is another 50% off, but this looks like a lot of new stuff. However, we'll take a trip through the back because I do see a few older things back there. And we'll just see if there's anything that's been hidden for so long that it's been overlooked. They certainly have the merchandise. I'll give them credit for that. The owl bookends might be interesting if they're old enough and inexpensive enough, but they're marked firm. You know, again, these are good. They're Philadelphia Craftsman, PM Craftsman. But why do you have half off and then mark everything firm so that it's not half off? Why don't you just put the price you want on the things? I do not understand this. And look how much merchandise is sitting there because of this pricing strategy. It's not working. One great thing about going to antique malls is that you'll find out where other antiques are and where other collectors are. The Hull Pottery Association is having a national show and sale, which they've been doing for about 30 years now. And you can go to the hullpotteryassociation.org and look at all that. I really like Hull Pottery. It's great that they're still going with this. Look into that online and you might find that beyond message boards and online stuff that there's some real world things that are really fun to do. Well, I had a lot of fun. I bought a box of stuff and I'm pretty happy with the prices I paid. I got a couple of neat railroad things, some very inexpensive linens, and a Francoma vase priced less than I would pay at a garage sale or a thrift store. So that was a good little haul, and I had a lot of fun in Centerville. There are a lot of antique shops in the area. Apparently, there is an entire brochure here. And one more thing that we forgot. So thankfully, they caught me and brought this out. It does make sense to actually count the number of items that you got and make sure that you have them all when you leave a store. So that's a good lesson to me that I should have learned a long time ago. In the antique and vintage business, most of our lessons are happy ones. And so I got all my stuff. I'm going to get back on the road and I'll be seeing you down the road with more fun and interesting things from different places as we take this trip. So stick with me. And now, if you enjoyed this video, check out this one. Also, click thumbs up to like this video and check the description for information about our Patreon, our memberships. We've got a lot of different levels with different perks and bonus videos and early content. Also, please do check out our website, theantiquenomad.com, for appraisal help. And we'll see you again for more adventures in the antique and vintage community soon. Bye for now.